So I take this opportunity to welcome you to this class today. Our previous video or the tutorial was about preparing the Django environment and opening it with the text editor. So what I want you to do is go to your text editor. We want to install certain extensions that can enable us to be able to at least program faster, especially when we are using our code editor. So I want you to go to your code editor, and in your code editor here on the files, I want you to go to preference and click on settings. So when you are on settings here, what I want us to do is to look for a format in which we will be able to at least save our files. So Python do normally has a format in which you are able to save files. But before we do type anything on this window here, we go to the extensions tab, which is at this point here. So click on the extension tab, and here I want you to write just Python. Once you've written Python, you will get an extension here. This extension is by Microsoft, and I want you to install it. The extension that we are referring to here is by Microsoft. We have other extensions that are available there by other people, but I want you to install the one that is given by Microsoft. Now, the second extension that I want you to install, once you have installed this one, there is an extension called Black. So Black is an extension that is also enabling you to be able to format your code in terms of Python. So there is Black that is available here, but there is one called Black Formatter. So I want you to install Black Formatter, which is a Python code formatter that has quickly become the default within the Python community. So to install that, you go to the extensions and type there Black and install Black. Now, after installing Black code formatter, I want you to go to the settings tab that we had opened here. And in the settings tab that we had opened here, I want you to type Python formatting provider. Once you have the Python formatting provider here, you will have a list of auto, pip, black, none, or any other that is available within your VS Code. I want you to select black. So select black. So once you have selected black, the next thing that I want you to do is to save the format that we have selected. So still on the search bar there, what we are going to do is to look for format, type format on save, and you will have the first link here that is called format on save. And this format on save is you will have this checkbox here that has not been enabled. So make sure that you click on this checkbox so that you have this kind of a tick here. Once you've done that, I want you to go to the terminal the way we were starting our terminal. I want you to go to the terminal, and once you are at the terminal, I want you to write the command Python -m pip install black. And once you have installed Black, you will see the downloads taking place, collecting different extensions that are available for you to be able to at least get the Black activation. Once this has been installed, then for us to test it to make sure that it is functioning, we can go back to the files on the VS Code here. Now we can close the settings and we can close the formatter because we are done with them. The next thing we can do is here we can try and create a file. Just click on here, create a file by the name hello .py, and inside py just write print with a single quote, hello world. So once you have written, you can see that our file is having a single quote. Whenever we click on save, which is basically formatting our file in form of Black, on save, you find that the file is being formatted into the Black Pythonic way of making sure that all the arrangements are done correctly, especially when it comes to making sure that we have the quotations correctly within our file. So this one shows you that the Black is active. Now, once you are done with that, it means that everything is now set up. First thing now we want to do is now creating a Django application. Today we want to create a Django application. Now, last time we were having the Hello World application. We are going to create a new application inside our virtual environment with the Hello World. We are going to create an application called Hello App. So for us to do that, we are going to run the command. Before I run that command, inside Hello World here, you can see that we have different files that come with Python, and the Python project that we are working with, which is Hello World. So we have the init file, which indicates that the file in the folders are part of the Python package. Without this file that you see here, we cannot import files from one directory to another, which we will be doing a lot, especially when we continue with the development of our Django application. The next one, we have what we call the asynchronous server gateway interface. Now, this allows for optional asynchronous server gateway interface, especially when you are integrating this application with another. Now, the other one is the settings.py, which controls the Django project overall settings, especially the ones that we have set. We have the urls.py, which tells Django which page to build in, especially when you are doing response to a browser or URL requests. Then we have the ysgi.py, which stands for the web server gateway interface, and it helps Django to serve our eventual web pages that we will create. The other page that I might think that you have also, you have the DB SQLite file. Basically, whenever we run Python Python manage.py migrate, we were able to at least create an SQL database where temporarily we are storing this data that we are working with within this application or this in this local environment. Then we have manage.py, which is not basically sometimes part of the Django project, but is used to execute various Django commands by running the local web server or creating a new app. So from here now we can be able to at least when you do Python when you do Python manage .py run server, you can be able to at least get the opportunity that our application is being executed correctly. Whenever we have this kind of link, we can decide to copy this link, highlight, and then you do Control-C and go to our browser, and when we place it here, you find that this is the page that we were having last time. So we want to modify this page so that at least we can start creating applications within our Django application. Look at how do we serve different pages that we are developing, different requests within the Django application. So unlike all other web framework, Django do normally have the HTTPS request to give URLs and return HTTP response containing the information necessary to render web pages. That is, generally, this process involves identifying the proper URL, connecting to a database, adding some logic, and applying the different styles that have been set. And this one can be seen especially when you look at VS Code. You can see the GET request has been initiated here, especially when we launched our URL here on the browser. So this one enables you to be able to at least render the pages. Now, Django applications do normally use the concept of the model view controller, which is basically a pattern that emerged with previous applications, especially web frameworks such as Ruby on Rails, Spring that is used in Java, Laravel for PHP, and C# with the .NET. Now, the traditional model view controllers basically used to have three major components. That is the model, which is used for managing data and core business logic. View, which is used to render data from the model in a particular format. And the controllers, which enable us to accept user input and perform application logic. So when you look at what that means in a diagram, when I go to Google and look at what a model view controller is, for example, if I take into images, so this is a representation of the model view architecture. This is a representation of the model view architecture. We have the MVC, which is where everything that is being done here is controlled from. So you have the UI rendering, which is basically enabling users to be able to at least get information. From here, when the user requests, the controller is able to at least decide on how data is being displayed, and that data is being got from the different models. So this enables you to be able to at least have the representation of the earlier architectures representation of data in those other mobile or those other frameworks. But in Django, we are going to use the model view template, which is basically the model that we are using in Django. So you can see the model view template is represented here. We are having, for example, the URLs that enable us to get the GET requests from the views, and these views is like the logic, and this is the models, which represents the back-end representation and the different templates on how they are being rendered. So you can use the logic here to be able to at least get information from the template and from the model, which is the database representation of the different information within our framework. So Django basically follows the traditional MVC approach with its own version, often called the model view controller. This can be initially confused sometimes especially when you are coming from developing using the model view controllers. So the model view template, especially the one for Django, has the models which manages data and core business logic. We have the views which describes data to be sent to the users, and then the template which presents data as HTML in optional CSS or JavaScript and static assets. We are going to look at that. And then lastly, we have the URL configurations, which performs the regular expression components configured to a view. So this is the representation of the model view template within the Django representation. So from here now, let us now go devolve into creating our Django app. So I'll split this terminal so that I can be able to create the Django application. And from here, we will be able to at least work efficiently. So I'll split the terminal there. So I've done the splitting. Now I have the terminal here that is running my Django server, and the other one here that is we are going to use in creating our app. So to start an application here, we are going to do Python manage .py start app, and this app we are going to call it hello. This is the application that we are creating. Now, whenever you have created such kind of an application, let's wait for it to, let me delete this one, this hello.py, and try creating it again. Good. So once you've done this and everything, there is no error that has been displayed. It means that now we have an application here, and this application is now called hello. Inside it, we have a folder for migrations, the initialization file, we have the admin file, which is a configuration file for building Django admin. We have the apps.py file, which is a configuration file for the apps itself. We have the models.py is where we are going to define our database model, which Django automatically translates into database tables. And then we have the test files, which is specifically when you are doing testing, the way we were doing when we introduced Python. Then we have the views.py, where we handle request and response logic for our web app. So basically, this is the web application that we have within the project. The project here, we have Hello World, but we have created an application called Hello. I hope you are not getting confused. So even though we have created this application here called app, our project here still doesn't have an idea that we have an application called hello. So we have to install this app. Whenever you create this, you will see that on the apps here we have a config file that enables you to be able to at least call this application. So for us to configure this, we go to our Hello World project, and inside settings, we go to installed apps, and inside installed apps, I'm going to include write hello dot apps dot zip dot hello config. This is what we are we can copy it and then place it here. So especially that is what we are creating. So whenever you are always doing this, you can see that there is always a reload that is taking place. It means that whenever you are creating an application within Django, then it keeps on refreshing itself so that it can be able to at least tell you where there is an error. So this one now makes our app to be able to be recognized by the Django application, and especially if you are creating several applications within Django, you will be able to at least install them within the installed app configuration. So when you go to the apps configuration here, you will always be able to see whatever where we are getting our configurations from to be able to be installed on the settings.app project, so that Django can be able to recognize it. So that one we have done on the hello world. Now we have our application here that is having the administration, the apps, the models, the test, the views that we can use in creating our application. So from here, you can decide that you want to at least display something to the users, especially who are using your page. And now what I want you to do is to go to the views. We have views here. These views that is available on the Hello app. Inside these views, we can decide that we want to create what users can be able to view. How do we even render our page? So from here, I want you to do, we want to import an HTTP request response, especially that is got from the users as a testing to test our views to see if it is going to be displayed to the users. So what I want you to do is do a from Django http import http response, import http response. So this is what I want you to import. Just leave the render here also. After importing this, I want us to create the first view that we can at least display. So we are going to define it as define a function called homepage, and inside this homepage we are going to have a request, and this request is picking in a request, and this request is returning we are returning an HTTP response, and inside this HTTP response, what we are going to return is hello world. Let's say, for example, hello world. So this hello world is going to be like the first thing we are doing. Basically, whenever we have created a view function that is called the home page to return hello world, we more specifically, we have imported the HTTP response method so that we can return a response object to the user, and that object is the hello world. We have created a function called homepage that accepts requests objects and returns a response within the string hello world. Now, Django basically do normally uses different types of two types of view. We have what is called the functional based views and the class based views. Our code in this example for in this function is a function based view, which is a relatively simple to implement and explain, and it's very much explicit. So over time, we will use the class-based views within our code, which is basically going to enable us to be able to use classes within the Django application. So for users to be able to see this, we are going to create a file within the hello world called urls.py. So within hello here, we create a file called urls.py. Inside the urls.py, we are going to create, or we are going to import path from the Django URLs format. So Django from Django.urls import path, not that one, import path, and then we have our first views within here as home page. So we are also going to import that. So from dot means from the first directory, we have a file called views import the home page. We are having, is it home page? Yes, we import home page. So we are importing path from the Django URLs, and from views file here we are importing our function that we defined here as home page. So how do we now do this? We have a function called URLs patterns, and URL patterns is a way in which we are able to render the views to the users. So we have what is called URL patterns. Inside URL patterns is where now we are going to pick path, and inside path we are now going to define what we are supposed to render to the users. So what we are supposed to render to the users is the first page, which is picking in the home page, and we can give it a name so that when you are developing more code, you can be able to demarcate your codes efficiently. So we have the home page, and we are rendering the home page, which is our URLs here that has been defined from the HTTP response that we are giving to the users. So once we have done that, we are going to include this within the URLs on the project. So we have the project here, hello world, and it already has the urls.py. So inside the urls.py, we will have a path here called admins. Don't rub it out. what we are going to include, you will write from Django.urls import path, and then comma include, and what we are going to include here is a path, and inside that path is going to be the primary path, and that path we are include we are going to include hello dot urls. So that is what we have included here. So whenever you are doing that and you see that everything is running correctly, then it means that your page has been defined well. So we have the first URLs, which is under our application, and then the second URLs under the project. And the URLs here is calling the first URL that is inside the application, because we had included it here on the settings. So we have the application already included here. So here we are just calling the hello.urls, hello here.urls, so that at least we can be able to display it. So once you have done that, when you run python manage.py run server, and we go to our application here and refresh, you are able to see hello world is being rendered there. So hello world has been included in our rendering of the page. So basically, when we are working with these kinds of application, you can be able to see that our views is serving as a way in which you can be able to create different applications. You can be able to at least render different pages. Now, let us look at it on the perspective of you as a developer, being able to create different pages that has things to do with home page, things to do with about page, and that one basically is where the concept of templates come in. You've seen that we were talking about templates when we were looking at these models here. So this model here was having some kind of a thing called templates. Now, what does templates do? Now, every web framework always needs a convenient way to generate an HTML file. And in Django, the approach is always to use the templates. Basically, individual HTML files that can be linked together, and also includes the basic logic. Recall that in the previous development that we have done, we have just rendered hello world to the user, which is basically something we have had coded into the rendering of these pages. So we want to create templates. And how do we create templates? Inside the hello world here, inside the hello application, not hello world, inside a hello application, I want you to create a folder, and this folder you are going to call it templates. So this folder is going to be called templates. This is where now we want to start rendering our HTML pages. So inside the template here, I want you to create a new file called home.html. So we have home.html. Inside our .html, we can maybe create heading one, and say that this is the home page of this application. Let me write in lowercase in this application. So I have, this is the information that is in the home page, and we have templates that has a file called hello world. So once we have done that, we are going to tell our Django project to be able to render templates, and for us to do that, we are going back to the hello world project, and we go to the settings. Inside settings here, if you scroll, we have something called templates. We have the templates directory, and here we include this command here inside the directories, where we are just modifying these directories to have the base directory. We are pointing it to templates. So that is what is supposed to be rendered. So once you have done that, we are going to change the structure of rendering into class-based views. What we had done here is functional views of the different files. So we go to the views, and now we want to use template rendering. I want you to clear everything in the views file. Just clear everything. So we want to use the template viewing model, which is now the class viewing of the different pages. So what I want us to do is, for us to do that, Django has an inbuilt way of rendering templates in terms of the different pages. So we will take, for example, from Django, Django.views generic import template view. So once we have done that, we are going to create the first class that is going to render our page that we had created, which is the home.html. So we have the first class. Remember when we were creating classes? So we have the first class, home page. Let's name it that way, which is served by template view. So this is the first class, and this first class is going to pick in the template name that we are rendering, or the template name that we are rendering is equal to home.html. So this is the page that we are rendering from the HTML. So once we have done that, on the views, we now go and change the URLs. Go to the URLs, and inside not the one here, this one here, the one that is inside our application called hello. And inside here, what we are going to do is to modify. So we had import homepage, which is starting with capital, which is starting with small letters. Now the one for the class here is starting with capital letters. You remember how we are naming classes. So we are going to have hello starting with home capital letter. So we have the home page here, and whenever we are serving it at this particular point on the URLs, we are going to serve it as a view, because basically it is a class. So whenever we are using a class, we have to render it as a view in the class framework. So we are going to add here homepage dot as view, and that one we have made our class to be able to at least be rendered efficiently. Is everyone up to here? So once this has been done, we have the URLs that is serving our page at our application at hello. So when we go to the URL here and refresh our page, good. So when you refresh our page, you are supposed to get the HTML display of our page as this is the home page of this application. And inside HTML here, now we can decide, now we want to add so many details that we might want. Maybe, for example, a paragraph. Let me add a paragraph. And name it homepage. And when I go back to my page and refresh, you can see homepage has appeared here. So that is a way of rendering templates. Now everything to do with HTML, we can be able to at least insert within this application. Now from here, now we can decide that we want to create like an about page. We can now go back to the templates and add about.html, and I can say that inside this about I have heading 1, and inside this heading 1 we have this is the about page. This is the about page. So I have another file that I have included here in named about. So what is now happening is that I will go back to the views so that I can be able to at least not to the views where we had a class called homepage. You can just copy this, another class here. Now we are going to call this one about page, and inside here it is supposed to render about.html. So the about.html is going to be the page that is now going to be the next one to be rendered. And now once I have done that, I go to the URLs. I'm going to the URLs here to include the about class. So I'm going to include about the about page that is supposed to be rendered, and inside URLs pattern I'm going to name as path. Now because here we are now going to define the path that is supposed to be used. So first of all, we are going to say the path is supposed to be about. That is the path that is supposed to be picked by this application, and this about is supposed to be picked picking the about page dot as view name is equals to about. So this is what is supposed to be picked by this application. So basically, this enables you to be able to at least exchange information between different pages. So when I go to the URLs here and I say, you see on top here, I still have just the home page. When I go to about, when I do about, you can see the about page is being rendered. This is the about page. So inside the about page, I can be able to at least include any other information that I think is necessary. Let's say, for example, I want to include a paragraph using the paragraphing tag. Using the paragraphing tag. And for you to be able to at least see the difference between these pages, let me copy any other information that is available here on the web. Let me say, for example, I've picked this, and that is what I am placing here, right? So once I have placed it here in the about page, when I go to my rendering and refresh the about page, you can see that that is the component that is being displayed to the users here. So Django do normally have a way of rendering these kinds of applications, especially when you want to use the same template. Let's say, for example, you are having a website that has different pages, different pages. Let's say, for example, this kind of page, or let me use the page for the Technical University of Kenya. Yes, for example, this kind of page. You have this kind of page, for example. These pages do normally have the top here, we have the navigation bar, and the bottom here also we have the navigation bar. And let's say you don't want to create a navigation bar for each and every page, right? Navigation top and bottom for each and every page. That is where the concept of extending templates within Django applications come into play, where you can create a base file that is extended to each and every file and you are able to navigate through. So what we are going to do here within the templates, let us create a new file here. We are going to call it base.html. base.html, and inside base.html we are going to have like a header, more like when you have headers in pages and footers. So we are going to have a header, and the closing mark for header sorry. After creating header, what we want to do is to reference these two files, about and HTML, in as navigation links. So in Python, the Pythonic way, or in Django, how do we reference a link? So we are going to use the A tag, and inside this A tag we are going to have home, close the A tag. Then we are going to have another A tag here, which is referencing the about, closing the A tag. So we are having a navigation. These navigations are ways through which you can move from one file to another. Now, this navigations enables you to be able to at least get more information about navigation from one file to another if you have a header and a footer that you don't want to recreate in each and every file. So you can have this file here and be able to navigate. Now, how do I point them to the about.html and home.html? So we are going to have the href, and inside this href I have opening and closing curly brackets, which is having the $2 for pointing to the about.html or the home, but we are not going to appoint them to about.html. Remember, when we are creating this, we are pointing them to the URLs. We created a URL here and we named it home. We created a URL here and named it about. So in the base file, we are going to point them to the URL. So the URL here, the URL that we are going to use is called home, and the next one, the URL is called about. So we are pointing this to the URLs that we have used here, so that at least we can be able to navigate. Now, then at the bottom, we are adding Python functionality so that we can be able to extend these templates. When you want to extend this template to a given page, we have a command called block tag. Let me just add it so that you see how it looks like. So here we have the block. We have what is called block content. And we add here end block content with the $ still. So this command here, which we have added at the bottom, basically enables us to be able to at least import these pages and be able to use it on the other pages that we are supposed to, if we don't want to rewrite these codes. several times within our page. So we can define the header and the footer of our page the way it is supposed to look like, and be able to use it within the about the HTML, if you are having contacts, if you are having from just only this base file. So what are we going to do on how to extend this page? On how to extend this base.html? We go to our HTML page. On our HTML page here, we are going to extend the Pythonic way of extension. We have extends extends. What are we extending? We are extending base.html inside this file, base.html. And then now everything that we had in this page here is now going to be featured inside the block content, because already we have the block content here. So I can copy this and go to the home.html and paste it here, and everything that I was working with, Control X, is going to be placed inside the block content. It means that everything now I defined inside this page is going to be within the block content. That is the reason why, if suppose now we decide that we have header and footer at the same time, for example, inside this HTML here, copy, and after block content, I have here as footer. So anything that is within the block content on the HTML page is what is going to be displayed. Otherwise, the rendering of the header and the footer of the page is going to be taken from the base file. So I can repeat the same thing on the about.html. On the about.html, whatever we have done here, we are going to copy this, and then place it on in the about, and then we pick in the content, the block content, and also place the block content somewhere there, and cut everything that we have here and place them inside the block content. So you find that we have the extension that has happened that way. We have extended the base file so that we can be able to use it as our header and footer within the home and about file. So this enables you to be able to at least extend the Django application and be able to use this application in terms of navigation very much nicely. So when I go back and refresh our page, is our Django running? Yeah. Good. Now, when you refresh our page, we have the home and about and home and about. So I can be able to click home and it will navigate nicely. I can be able to click about, and you can see how I'm moving through these different pages very much nicely. So this is more into creating the first app of Django application that we have done today. If we are to write even tests for this home application that we have done, we can be able to do that very much nicely on the test on the test file, so that at least we can be able to test do very different some tests within this application to test the two functions that we have written, and these two functions are inside the views .com, the views file. So these are the two functions that are rendering. The URLs is able to serve the user with the pages that are supposed to be rendered. The base file is able to serve you as the common file that is going to be used within this application. And you can see the status code, which is showing successful as 200 here within our application. So that is the first app that we have created today.